been a pretty good week, pretty successful for the most part. I don't have any. I'm not under a contract with anything yet, but I had a showing on Wednesday night with a client that I've been, or I should say, a lead that I've been working. And when I mean working is emailing them, calling them, kind of staying in touch with them. Initially, they were talking about being kind of cold, like they weren't really sure what they wanted to do, and so that was a good thing. Also, I'm going out right now to show 2 properties to another lead that I've been working, but up to this point, it's been an issue of him not being able to get approved, and he needed a year in his job, and so that literally February 1st today is when he hits that year mark. So going out to show 2 properties to him, so that one is probably going to move fairly quickly.
Yeah, like really quickly. Like, I haven't posted my Friday video and it's already Saturday night because I've been writing contracts and negotiating counteroffers. So it looks like we're going to be under contract, Lord willing, Monday, provided nothing weird happens over the weekend. So,
and then I had an older lead that is kind of back in the picture. Some family stuff happened and she had to stop looking for a while, but she's back looking again and increased her purchase price, so that's really exciting. The big thing I want to talk about today is perception. We're going to look at it a couple different ways. We're going to look at perception from the standpoint of how we view the world and circumstances, but we're also going to look at perception when it comes to the way that I parent. Humans are an amazing creature. We have the ability to convince ourselves of anything. That is both a good thing and a bad thing. Even when we're presented with facts that are contrary to what we perceive or think, we can convince ourselves that, oh, those facts are just wrong. And when my wife and I were in Cozumel back in October for her birthday, we were at the airport, and I'm standing by the duty-free store, which, if you don't travel a lot, duty-free store is just a tax-free place. People buy alcohol, expensive stuff like jewelry, cigarettes, and we're standing by the cigarettes, and half of the packaging is talking about the fact that these things kill, that they cause cancer, that they will shorten your life. I mean, those kind of statements are on these packages, and yet people still buy them. I mean, and I'm not immune to this, right? I drink a lot of Diet Dr. Pepper, and I know that the aspartame that's in these is not really particularly good for my body. But at some point, I've convinced myself that it's not that bad. As a Christian, we have this ability to take sin that's in our life things that we shouldn't be doing, and convince ourselves it's not that bad or it's okay. Things like little white lies, or business people doing things that aren't entirely truthful. I've seen it. I've been around it. I know that really good Christian people that are generous, kind, do things that I'm like, really? I was just kind of shocked. But they were okay with it. So this video isn't meant to judge. It's just my observations that we can convince ourselves of a lot. We can convince ourselves that doing bad things is okay, or doing things that are borderline are okay. We can also convince ourselves in a positive way. We can convince ourselves that to do stuff, it's part of the mindset thing. We can convince ourselves, that's the whole point of starting out day with gratitude and stuff like that, is shifting what your mind is focusing on. A lot of our perception has to do with the filter we're looking through. It's one of the reasons why, as a Christian, I believe reading the Bible is important, is because it keeps that filter in place. If you fill your mind with, whatever you watch, whoever you're listening to, if you're listening to people who are negative all the time, if you're listening to people who are critical of everything around them, you're going to filter your world through that critical, negative lens. Whereas if you fill what you're watching, what you're feeding yourself through positive things, through encouraging people, that's going to be the filter. You filter what's going on around you. We can convince ourselves of anything, literally anything. I have two things to say about that. Is one, make sure you're filling your brain and you're listening to and you're feeding yourself people that are positive, encouraging, challenging, because let's challenge our perceptions. And the other thing is, don't have so much confidence in yourself that your perception is right. Recognizing that your perception of something may be off is the first step to actually understanding. I recognize that I see things, I perceive things differently than others. And I recognize that my perception of something may not be accurate. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm convinced I'm wrong all the time, but it helps me be a little more, it helps me empathize a little bit more. It helps me learn and grow because I'm not always sure that that my perceptions are accurate. And one of the things I realized, I was having a conversation with my sister, one of my sisters. She is just 2 years younger than me, and we grew up kind of functioning in life together, doing a lot of, like, we had joint birthday parties as kids growing up. So we jokingly refer to ourselves as twins that were 2 years separated, because we did everything together. And she and I were having a discussion not too long ago, and realizing how different our perceptions were of growing up, of our life, of our relationship with our parents. We had completely different perceptions of what life was like growing up. And I'm not convinced neither one of us is right? So the facts are probably somewhere in the middle. And this was a huge enlightening moment for me as a parent, in that it really doesn't matter what the facts are. It really doesn't matter what the facts are for a situation or an experience. What matters for the kid and for their heart and for how they perceive the world around them, it is simply how they're perceiving that situation. What matters for a kid is not the facts, necessarily. What matters is how they're perceiving the facts, how they're perceiving the situation. When I am parenting my daughter or walking my daughter through a particular situation, or my son, but specifically my daughter, recognizing how she's perceiving a situation will make me a far more successful parent than just pointing out the facts. As I'm parenting my kids, instead of just trying to make sure they know the facts, which are important, don't get me wrong, facts are important, but trying to get from them, trying to glean from my kids' responses how they're perceiving what's going on makes a huge difference. So if they're perceiving a situation a particular way, I can recognize that and I can parent off of those perceptions. I can help them try to adjust how they're perceiving things to be a little more in line with how they actually are, not necessarily just the way they're seeing the situation. So it allows me to help frame the way my kids process what's going on around them, what's happening to them, in a way that is positive and will help them grow. Well, maybe not positive, because sometimes things that are happening around them are negative, but their perception of other people's emotions, other people's heart motives will change how they take on that negative thing that happened. So I try to parent to their perception of things, not just simply to the facts. And I can interweave those facts and adjust their perceiving of that. But if I don't start from where they're perceiving or their perception of the situation, if I don't start there, I'll never get to the point where they're truly understanding a situation or an experience. Humans are amazing creatures.